Exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship, left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Welcome, everyone, to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. We're live here on WYSL, which means that you, the listener, can participate in the conversation if you listen to us live today. Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comments online on the Free Solution Facebook page, the Kevin Wilson Facebook page, A Free Solution on YouTube, or my Twitter. Any one of those, leave your comments. Happy to bring those into the discussion if you have something good to say. So, also shout out down the line to our friends over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in Southern Tier. Appreciate y'all listening here as well. And today we're going to talk about, I got like a few things on deck. We'll see how the show goes. But we're going to talk about the Biden administration's threat to the right of self-defense. Another threat to the right of self-defense, this one taking place at more of a local level, and in the implementation of what gun policy might look like on a national level, and how it ends up impacting people and hurting the very people that the Biden administration claims to want to protect. We'll get into that in a minute. And then after that, if we run out of steam on that, we'll talk about Pete Buttigieg's comments that infrastructure is racist, that highways are racist. I think that's something that's worth examining. Let's talk about are the roads racist? And just as a libertarian who hates roads, I don't know, maybe they are. All right, we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But first, I want to talk about what's going on with the Biden administration with the new gun proposals that he's bringing up. So there's a couple proposals that he's putting out there, and really, if you look at what this is, well, a lot of what this is, if you are a fan of the New York State SAFE Act and all of the other gun legislation that's come through New York State, well, Joe Biden's bringing a lot of that to the national level. Yes, the arbitrary rules and and red flag laws and different violations of your right to self-defense that aren't actually going to solve the gun violence problem. And let's get that part out of the way first. Like, all of this stuff, and hopefully you'll be convinced by the end of this. And this isn't, I'm going to do this pretty briefly. I suspect that Larry is also going to be talking about this topic this week too, but we'll see. This will not solve gun violence problems. It is a complete show to show his progressive base that he's doing something about guns. That's it. That's all it is. It is virtue signaling that will hurt American citizens and make it harder for you to exercise your right to bear arms. So I'll kind of run down the list of proposals, what they're going to do, and how effective they might be for actually solving the problems. And before we get into this, I also want to say, like, I know some of you are thinking, like, gosh, darn it, Biden, we knew that he was going to implement gun laws. This is why I wish that Trump was still president. Nonsense. Trump used executive orders to ban bump stocks. He was one of the first presidents to take extreme executive action on limiting your right to bear arms. Maybe you don't care about bump stocks, but Joe Biden is just extending that. The Republicans and the Democrats are not your friends on guns. I'm sure there are some Republicans who are good on 2A, but President Trump was not. He was bad on that issue, and he took executive action on guns. We wouldn't have been any better if he was in office. But we got Joe Biden, who is gung-ho about this issue. And I'm already getting a comment that says, no amendment is absolute. And yet that's probably one of the most alarming statements that, thank you, Jamie, commenting on Facebook. That's probably one of the most alarming statements that Joe Biden said. He said that no amendment is absolute, therefore we can justify restrictions on the right to bear arms. And it's funny because he says that like this was a restriction that we have restricted the Second Amendment since the beginning. He said from the very beginning the Second Amendment existed. Certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. Yeah, slaves, Native Americans, people who were vulnerable and were abused by the state. I mean, like, what a wild argument for gun control. Yes, oh, yeah, remember, we always used to restrict the Second Amendment. We made it hard for people to own guns. Yes, slaves, free black men and women, and other marginalized groups. Yeah, those are the type of people who weren't allowed to own guns. Is that really a great argument for what you're trying to do here? Does that make you feel warm and fuzzy that we can trust our government to take away our guns and we're all going to be just fine? It shouldn't. It should set off alarm bells. So let's talk about the proposals then. Right? So one of the proposals is, and I'll read off of their fact sheet, the White House fact sheet. The Justice Department, within 30 days, will issue a proposed rule to help stop the proliferation of ghost guns. And basically these are, the different kits that you can buy, like you heard the term like 80% lowers, and people are buying these kits that they can then turn into, a gun by, just doing different modifications of those. Here's the thing about that. If you are a criminal and you want a gun that you are doing some of the manufacturing yourself on, and you intend to commit a crime with that gun, legislation at this level is not going to stop you from doing that. There's nothing you can do, the government can do, to prevent bad people from getting guns. Now, they could buy pre-manufactured guns. They go buy them at a store, in the black market, whatever. Criminals find a way. And at some point in time, you say, okay, we're going to ban these kits. Well, they're going to change the kit slightly, be in compliance. And at some point in time, the government's just going to have to ban hunks of metal and pipes to prevent these gun kits from being in the hands of criminals. But here's the thing. Again, criminals, they're going to be able to just get this stuff. They're going to figure it out. If you really are committed to doing crime, you're going to figure out a way to manufacture guns and to make guns that are hard for the government to trace back to certain buyers and sellers. Or you just steal guns. That's what happens a lot, particularly in this state, is people just wait for gun owners to carelessly leave, their guns in the cars unlocked, and they take them. That happens way too often. You guys should make sure you lock up your guns when you're not using them, and not leave them in an unlocked car. That's very stupid. So that's one of them. Not going to do a thing. Just a way of taking a scary term, ghost guns, and showing progressives that he is doing something about it. Complete nonsense. The other one is the pistol arm braces. So in the Colorado shooting, the shooter had used a pistol arm brace. The rule is going to change so that you have to register that pistol arm brace and pay $200 tax in order to do that. This is a creative interpretation of the National Firearms Act. Probably won't really do much to actually change mass shootings. Most mass shootings take place with just pistols, and they're not using a pistol brace. Pistol brace, for those who don't know, it just basically makes it easier to shoot a little bit more accurately. But a lot of mass shootings are done with pistols without wearing a brace, and it's taking place in gang shootings and other mass shootings related to different conflicts that exist. It's usually taking place with just normal pistols, which again, if you're a criminal and you want to get a pistol, you can find a way to do it. That's how it often happens. So what they're doing is before the pistol brace was just an accessory for handguns. This is why I kind of thought of the SAFE Act in doing this, because we're gonna arbitrarily make accessories harder to get, or reclassify them in a new way without actually doing anything substantive to stop gun violence. And so the National Firearms Act defines a rifle as a weapon designed or redesigned, made or remade, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. Basically, the Biden administration is saying that Now, a pistol brace is going to be reclassified because it could, in theory, be, employed as a shoulder stock. And, but before, they would say, no, this is just an accessory to a pistol. It's clearly not intended to be fired from the shoulder, but they're going to redefine that. They're going to arbitrarily redetermine that this is some new thing and say that it's going to now be regulated in a new way. Again, this is a new thing. The Trump administration did this. They reclassified rifles with a bump stock as machine guns. This isn't an unheard of tactic. But the Biden administration, they're learning from that. They say, oh, the gun owners, they let Trump get away with that. They'll let me get away with it too. Yeah, the gun owners listed show that the Democrats don't think you care. You let Trump get away with it, why shouldn't he too? All right, when we come back, we'll keep talking about the Biden administration's action on guns, and then kind of a closer to home threat to your right to self-defense. All right, we'll be back here on A Free Solution in a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
When you've been seriously injured in a car crash, you need a lawyer who knows how to beat the big insurance companies. Call me and I'll take them on so you can focus on your health and family.
Car crash, call Salino. Salino, call Salino. 888-2020.
Main Street, Rochester.
A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here and listening today. Again, we're live here on WYSL until 1 p.m. So if you want to give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or comment on one of our streams online. And, Joe says, didn't Trump do an executive order that banned bump stocks? Yes. Bump fire stocks? Yeah, he did. And that's why, I bring it up. I don't think Trump was good on Second Amendment. I don't think we would win either way. Trump was subject to populist pressures on this issue. He's always been kind of sympathetic to the gun control side. I think the only way we would have gotten a strong pro 2A president is if you vote for Joe Jorgensen, who is very pro 2A. It's kind of scared people a bit, so that's what it is. And so now we got Joe Biden trying to do a few different actions, and I think that the big three is the ghost guns. Again, criminals can get around it, unless are you going to totally monitor everyone, monitor every piece of metal, every pipe, every 3D printer for ghost guns? No, people can get around it. Like, you have to find different ways. That's not going to be the way to stop gun violence. Like, if you are really determined to make a gun, you can do it. It might not be a good one, but you can do it. And then the stabilizing brace, the pistol braces, by creative reinterpretation of the National Firearms Act. Not unheard of. Trump also, creatively reinterpreted the law to suit his needs on gun issues as well. So we have a precedent. The gun community didn't fight it back when that happened. Now, I don't care how you feel about gun stocks or bump stocks. That's an action that set a dangerous precedent. I didn't like it. We talked about it on the show. And then there's the red flag laws. Now, this is something that we've talked about in the context of New York State too. And I'll just quote from the Biden's White House release here. Justice Department within 60 days will publish model red flag law legislation for states. Red flag laws allow family members of law enforcement to petition for a court order temporarily barring people in crisis from accessing firearms if they present a danger to themselves or others. The president urges Congress to pass an appropriate national red flag law as well as legislation incentivizing states to pass red flag laws of their own. In the interim, Justice Department published model legislation will make it easier for states that want to adopt red flag laws to do so. This seems incredibly dangerous to try to do this on a national scale because we're not even so sure that red flag laws are actually making the impact that the proponents say they are. They're saying, is there a change in suicide? Does this actually prevent serious crimes from happening? And then, what is the due process for this? The process in New York State is murky and unclear. If someone, calls the police, gets an order for a red flag confiscation from you, what is the due process for clearing your name? If someone, what's the due process too for making sure that these requests aren't made in bad faith? Are these requests made to remove the firearms from someone who is in legitimate danger, someone who's being stalked, someone who is in a domestic abuse situation, someone who just has other reasons for self-defense? What is the process for making sure that doesn't happen? What's the process for making sure that if someone does have their guns taken away, if a judge or whoever does that, how do they get it back? You shouldn't have to prove your innocence, but that's the practical question we have to answer. And how do you know that this type of legislation doesn't discourage people who need mental health support from seeking it out because they're worried that medical professionals, family members, and others might go get the government to take their guns away? How do you prevent that type of stuff from happening? You may leave mental health issues untreated for longer, let them fester for longer, because you are threatening to take those away. There needs to be a clear, simple process for that happening. And I don't know that good process is going to come from the state. There's so many problems with how it's being implemented in New York and Connecticut and other states. Why do we want to bring this to the national level? I mean, I don't like it, but I have less of an issue of them saying we want model legislation. All right, make your case for model legislation. It's still bad. I'm going to fight that. But passing a national red flag law, I can't see any way in which that would be constitutional. Not that these guys care about that, but no way in which it's constitutional. And we are still learning all the ways in which this has negative, unforeseen impacts on the people who are living under these new red flag laws. Not only for the Second Amendment, but also for people getting mental health treatment and understanding what the dynamic between those two are, and for due process as well, and for people who need access to firearms for their own personal safety. And I'm hoping that I can appeal to the reason of any gun control advocates out there listening right now. Who knows if you are, but that's the practical considerations. In addition to the fact that I feel like this is a violation of our right to self-defense, and I don't particularly like that. But there's also the practical side of this. And actually, with this whole gun control speech too, actually CNN did a pretty good fact check. It surprised me too, of Joe Biden talking about this, and I'll just run through those real quick because I find it interesting that they called this out, and I'll share the link in the comments for those listening online. If you're listening on the radio in your car or whatever, go back and check the Facebook page later. Make sure you go and like A Free Solution. You can follow us there. I usually post my links in the comments or as posts afterwards, so you can know what I'm looking at. And I'll run through the quick fact checks on those issues. And one, it's Joe Biden said that the only industry in America, $1 billion industry that can't be sued, has exemptions from being sued, are gun manufacturers. This isn't true. I know it's not true. You know it's not true. Gun manufacturers can, in fact, be sued. They can't be held liable for a crime committed with their product. There's a case that might be going to the Supreme Court against Remington Arms related to Sandy Hook. Well, that had gone up to the Supreme Court. However, you can be sued. It's just they're liable for negligence in manufacturing, breach of contracts, damages related to if you are using a firearm and it malfunctions in a way that is the responsibility of the gun manufacturer, you can sue them for that. They're liable for that stuff. But if you buy a gun and then you commit a crime with it, you can't go sue the gun manufacturer for that. There are other industries that are also not liable. Vaccine manufacturers, for instance, they're not liable for injuries, which I know people message me about all the time, but there's a public fund to access money if you're injured by a vaccine, and I'll do a whole episode on that one time. But the point is that there are other industries where this is happening, and gun manufacturers are liable for certain things, but they're no more liable for someone committing a crime with their product than kitchen supply manufacturers are liable if someone uses a knife made in their facility to stab someone, because that would be ridiculous. No reason for that. All right, this is a big one. Gun show loophole. Right. Let's talk about that real quick. Joe Biden says, you can just go into a gun show and buy a gun, and says, and I'll say, quote, but you can go to a gun show, you can buy whatever you want, and no background check. Folks listening are like, that's obviously not true. If you go to a gun show, you are still doing the FFL check, you're still doing NICS check, you're still doing all that stuff. Under federal law, there's some ways in which a private seller can sell a gun to someone without running through that system. So under federal law, it doesn't require every private seller who's not selling frequently to do that. If you're selling in-state, for some states, but that private seller still can't knowingly sell that gun to someone who can't legally own a gun. So it's complete nonsense. This is the silliest talking point that's so easily debunked. When progressives say this, just knock it down. That's nonsense. Whenever someone starts talking about that, just they have no idea what they're talking about. So those are a couple of the ones there. And when we come back, I'll talk about that other threat to the Second Amendment that I had mentioned in the opening segment. But if you have any questions, if you have any other things that I need to bring up about the Biden gun control executive orders that are coming down the pipe, give us a call. 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back with more here on A Free Solution in a few minutes.
Bongino Show, coming May 24th. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the temps forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. Showers will taper off, staying kind of cloudy out there. Could be a bit of fog. Temps drop into the 40s. On Tuesday, overall drier day, clouds, a little bit of sun, small chance of a shower in the afternoon, but most of the time rain-free. In the 50s, Wednesday, increasing clouds, more showers come in Wednesday night into Thursday. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hi folks, this is Vinny Dallo. I'm a financial planner and the founder of Cap'n Financial. Now I'm proud to say that I'm part of the WYSL on-air family. Tune into my show, Money Talks, on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m. At Cap'n Financial, our process begins with educating our clients on all areas of financial planning. On Money Talks, you'll hear us discuss retirement, investments, insurance, and helpful financial strategies. So be sure to tune in to Money Talks on the second and fourth Tuesday each month at 6:30 p.m.
Vinny Dallo is a financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Cap'n Financial, its employees, nor New York Life Securities, LLC, or its representatives or affiliates provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Please consult your own tax, legal, or accounting professional before making any decisions. The show is provided for informational purposes only.
Dad, I can't believe this is our 10th year open at Colby's Ice Cream Bake Shop in Rush.
We have made so many people happy over the years.
This year, we have 2 new flavors, Midnight Peanut Butter Marshmallow and Salted Caramel Brownie, along with 34 other great flavors of Hershey's ice cream.
Don't forget Colby's Fresh Baked Pies, just $6. And stop by for a loaf of our new beer bread.
It's finally spring. Come get an ice cream and a pie at Colby's in Rush, corner 251 and 15 or exit 11 on 390 South. We're now open. Come out to Colby's.
A healthy smile has health benefits beyond just teeth. It's whole body wellness. Don't live with broken, missing, or failing teeth. Lakeview Dental can restore your smile with state-of-the-art dental care. Their approach is providing reliable, comfortable solutions for the long term. Eliminate those endless visits to deal with recurring problems with your teeth. Address your dental concerns once and for all. Find out more at LavoniaSmiles.com or call 346-3028. Lakeview Dental, for the smile of a healthier you.
Sheriff Thomas Doherty would like to remind us that most burglaries are committed with little to no force. A lot of times the suspect enters through an open door or window. It is difficult to make your house completely burglar-proof, but you can make it hard for the burglar. How strong are your locks on both doors and windows? Are there trees, hedges, or fences that will help hide the suspect? The enemy of the burglar is noise and time. They will move on to the next target if your house is taking too much time or if there is an audible alarm they set off. Lights on timers and motion lights are very effective, especially when you are not home.
We're not meant to live life alone. At Brighton Presbyterian Church, we believe we need God and one another every day. Join a caring church family that values loving God, His Word, and serving others with humility. We worship together at 9:15 a.m. on Sundays at 1775 East Avenue in Rochester, across from Wegmans. Our gospel-centered messages are broadcast here on WYSL at 10 a.m. each Sunday. Find out more at brightonpresby.org.
With disastrous changes in Washington, a mass media that's captive of government, and increasing censorship of the news and social media, it's important to preserve freedom of speech and truth, whether it's related to COVID, voting fraud, or the Great Reset. Please use the WISL stations to advertise and grow your business, professional practice, or organization. Help us continue to entertain and inform you, and stand up to authoritarianism, lies, and bullying. And thanks in advance for your support from the WISL stations, the voice of liberty. Call 346-3000.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. We're live here on WYSL until 1 p.m., which means that you can call in or leave your comment. Call in at 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or leave your comment online on A Free Solution, the Facebook page, A Free Solution, the YouTube channel, or one of my Kevin Wilson ones. You can comment there too. We got it streaming over there. Shout out down the line to our friends over at WACK out in Newark and WENY, the Patriot down in the Southern Tier. Appreciate y'all listening here as well. All right, so I'm going to shift gears slightly. And I'm going to come back to the Second Amendment thing, but I'm going to explain a situation that started to make some national news. And I'm a little bit bothered by the way some conservatives talked about it, right? So this, you might have seen it. There's the thing that happened down in Virginia. Actually happened back in December. There was a U.S. Army officer, Lieutenant Caron Nazario. He was driving a newly purchased Chevy Tahoe. He had his temporary plates driving through Virginia, and these officers tried to pull him over. You know, he drove over to a well-lit area before this happened because he was a little bit worried about how the police were going to react and treat him. So he pulled over. You can clearly see that the temporary plates in his window, you know, when he pulled over to the gas station. Allegedly, they had pulled him over because, you know, they couldn't see his plates. But, you know, he had temporary plates in there, which is perfectly legal to do. And if you watch this video, there's two police officers who come in. This guy, the lieutenant is in his uniform, right? Like you can see him. He's, you know, in his uniform. You can tell he's active duty service member. And his officers, there's Joe Gutierrez. He immediately pulls his gun out. He pulls his gun out, starts yelling at him to get out of the car. You know, this is a traffic stop, right? But pulls his gun and yells him to start getting out of the car. And the Lieutenant Nazario, he has his hands out the window. They tell him to keep his hands out the window. Lieutenant's like worried because, you know, this police officer's fired up. And, you know, Nazario's like, hey, what's this about? Can you tell me what this is about? And the police officer just yelling at him, screaming at him, you know, get out of the car, get out of the car. And he's like, hey, you know, just tell me what's going on. What am I being pulled over for? What's actually happening here? You know, I'm showing you my hands, but just tell me what's going on. I don't want to get out of the car. And I can't blame him. The guy's fired up, and he doesn't want to look like he's doing anything sketchy that's going to get him shot. Now, the officer responds to that with, you know, what's going on? You're fixing to ride the lightning, son. I mean, what an inappropriate way of doing that. And, you know, he's also, you know, like the guy's like, hey, I'm a service member. I'm not going to get out of the car, but I'm showing my hands. Can you just tell me what's about? And the police officer's trying to say, like, well, I'm giving you an order. You got to get out. Dude, that guy doesn't have to obey your orders. Come on. You don't. It's not what happened. Like, you have certain rights in these situations. You don't have to listen to everything that police officer says. You have a right to, you know, due process in these situations, right? Not due process, but you have a right to say that you don't want an officer in your car if they don't have any good reason to do that. This officer didn't state any reason for that, just said get out of the car. The lieutenant, and there's a whole video of this, there's body cam footage of this. Lieutenant is just like, no, I'm not going to do that. So what's the officer do? Goes up, pepper sprays him in the eye. And, you know, at that point, the lieutenant's relatively calm for what is a terrifying situation. You got a guy, with a gun in your face, yelling at you to get out, and he's just trying to be like, well, what is this about? And you got a dude with a gun in your face and pepper sprays him in the face and it's like, hey, you got to get out. Guy also, Nazario also had his dog in the car apparently too. I was saying that, and the dog, got pepper sprayed as well. Yelling at him, and of course the Nazario's terrified at this point. I'm terrified throughout the entire process, and he's like, hey, I can't get out. I have my seatbelt on. I don't want to reach for my seatbelt. And you know why? He's thinking of people like Philando Castile, who, was just trying to get his license, and he got shot. So he's trying to be very careful not to get shot here. Trying to be very polite, trying to explain to the police officer what's going on. And no matter how calm he's being, no matter how compliant he's being, other than, like, not getting out of the car for the man waving a gun in his face, the situation keeps escalating. Trying very hard not to get shot. Doesn't want to look like he's reaching over too quick to unbuckle his seatbelt. Getting shot at. Still not being told what's happening here. And so this is a terrible situation. And the officer, Gutierrez, got fired. We'll see if he ends up getting any charges for this. But he got fired because, man, that is no way to handle this situation. That is terrible. And so, and I don't know when he was fired. I just saw that he was fired later on. So I know we're getting some comments about this. Brian says the video is sickening, and if you listen to what's called in, he said it was a felony traffic stop. I don't know what that was, but the police officers, Brian, you're right, have to tell him what he's suspected of. And Will said if Lieutenant would have opened the door that was locked, the officer probably would have shot him, saying he was reaching for something, door handle. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what he was worried about. He was thinking about people like Philando Castile, which, if you remember, he was a legal gun owner who was shot by a police officer. He told the police officer that, like, hey, I have a firearm in the car, and I'm just going to show you my license, and he got shot for it. And that's what was going through this guy's mind, through the lieutenant's mind. Didn't want to get shot. Didn't want to look like he was being too, jerky with his motions. Terrifying, because this guy was on edge. The police officer was on edge. Didn't want to give him a reason to do that. And the disturbing part, and here, so this is the part where it gets disturbing. This is why I brought up Philando Castile too, is that apparently the army officer here had a firearm in the car, which he is legally allowed to do. And there's some folks who are saying, well, he was asking for trouble. He had a gun in the car. The police, should have, obviously need to be careful now that they know that there's a gun in the car. Okay, first of all, like, they didn't know that. This guy didn't have the gun on him. And if you are a legal gun owner, and this guy is, again, an active duty serviceman, if you are a legal gun owner, you have a right to have that gun in your car in a lot of situations, right? You can't go after the fact and be like, oh, you're asking for trouble if you have a gun in the car. Are you serious right now? No, you have a right to that self-defense. It should be more prevalent for people to be able to do that, for legal gun owners to be able to carry their gun in their car. And when you're doing so, you shouldn't have to worry about getting shot by a police officer. You shouldn't have to worry about these folks afterwards, saying like, oh, Philando Castile deserved to get shot because of what? Because he had a gun in the car? Because the police officer was nervous? I don't want that to happen to him. I didn't want what happened to that lieutenant to happen to any of you either. Philando Castile or the lieutenant. That shouldn't happen to you as a legal gun owner. That is a threat to your Second Amendment right. If the folks in the Second Amendment community are justifying this type of stuff, if they're saying, well, he had a gun in the car and so the police officer had to act this way. No, the heck they didn't. They did not have to act this way. They did not have to violate this man's rights, and justifying it after the fact is disgusting. I don't know. This situation riles me up. Again, it has to do with, not only, a police officer who is abusing his power, and I think that's part of an issue, but it's the Second Amendment side of this too. I would hope that the Second Amendment community would look at this situation and shut down the folks who are making this justification for a police officer's actions. Because this man had a gun in the car. An active duty service member, guy who is serving his country, And he brought that up during the video. He's like, hey, I'm serving the country. What's the issue? You have a right to know why you're being pulled over, and you have a right to, to carry your gun in the car too. You shouldn't have to fear for your life because that's happening if you are a legal, responsible gun owner. And anyone justifying that is not a friend of the Second Amendment. If you're taking the side of police officers who are violating your right over the Second Amendment, you are not a fan of the Second Amendment. You're not, period. Re-examine your priorities. And a couple other comments. Police officers need to be the most cool in these situations. Too many of these types of videos, making them worse. Brian mentioned that there's another incident out in Iowa over the weekend. I don't know about that one. But yeah, if you're a police officer, like you should know, that you're going to run into the folks who have a gun, and you should be able to keep your cool in there. And the police officer didn't know this person had a gun in the car afterwards. But police officers need to know how to de-escalate these situations and not coming in saying that you're going to ride the lightning. My goodness. We need to get those people out. There's a lot of police officers I support, but like these guys like this, I'm glad he's fired. I'm curious to see if he faces any other consequences of this. But these are types of folks we need to get out. These are the types of folks who are ruining relationships between police and the community. So if that's the type of person you are, you're going to come in like that, man, I'd really like to see those types of police officers leave, because I think they're ruining the reputation of police across the country, and I think that creates other problems. All right, so I think we exhausted that, but thanks for listening here on A Free Solution. If you have any thoughts on that, give us a call, 585-346-3000. If not, I might move on to another topic next segment. But thanks again for joining us. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, He is my refuge and my fortress, for He will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease.
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovation should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
All right, welcome back to A Free Solution. We're live on WYSL, so we want to give us a call, 585-346-3000. Participate in the conversation. Appreciate all your comments online. Great discussion going on over there, so make sure you head on over to the Free Solution Facebook page and check that out. I'm going to shift topics a little bit, because I feel like I can only do like 15 minutes on this one. Now, I want to dedicate a whole show to this, but the Pete Buttigieg, Pete Buttigieg, I mispronounced his name wrong, but works for the Biden administration, had this quote, said, "There is racism physically built into some of our highways." Okay. Now, I know this is easy to dismiss because, well, progressives call everything racist, every single thing, and they do it so often and with so low of a barrier that it's easy to just write this off as progressives being clowns again. I get it. But I think he's actually kind of right about this one. Now, is he and the Biden administration doing anything to fix that? No, they're not. But let me make my brief case for why Pete Buttigieg might be right that racism is built into our infrastructure. And basically it goes like this. A lot of the highway system that we have nowadays was built with overly enthusiastic, progressive politicians going through and thinking they could engineer our society to fit their mold. You know, progressives at the national level, you know, who had tried to do this over the years, like FDR and LBJ, all the way down to, you know, the mayors and governors who felt that, well, all we need to do are these massive projects that shape communities for our vision of the future, which is, you know, around cars. And it doesn't matter who gets in the way of that vision, because we're going to come in here as big government and knock down anyone who stands up to us. And, you know, we saw that play out in New York City with Robert Moses. You know, we've seen it go into play in Rochester with the construction of the Inner Loop, which is now being deconstructed. In almost every city in the United States that has a major highway running through it, and has highways that were built throughout the city in the last 50 years, most of those highways came at the cost of Black and Latino and immigrant neighborhoods. The neighborhoods that ended up getting torn down for these were sometimes thriving communities of African Americans and other minorities. And you have to wonder, why were those communities selected for this teardown? They were subject to, even, you know, landowners, renters, small businesses. They're subject to eminent domain. They had, you know, the way that the planners said this was, you know, they were clearing slums, but oftentimes these were also healthy, thriving communities. But they would brand it as clearing slums and build a highway through it, just so, you know, you could save some time traveling. There was an incredible amount of damage done to these communities once thriving places were now divided in two and had a noisy highway running through it. And these business owners didn't get the compensation they deserved, or homeowners didn't get the compensation they deserved. And their communities that had been built up over decades completely torn apart. They were squashed under the vision of progressive central planners. Now, again, I don't like how the left calls everything racist, but in this case, they are right. Progressive governments that built the highway system did not care about the individual. They did not care about property rights. They did not care about thriving communities. And they were perfectly willing to crush them to enact their vision. And they'll continue to do the same thing today. They don't care about your individual rights. What matters is how do we, improve the community as a whole. How do we, that's their framing, not mine. How do we enact our progressive vision? And if we got break a few eggs along the way, no big deal. Certainly the same thing you saw in communist countries too, where they would enslave people, they would destroy the agriculture industry, they would do all sorts of terrible things to enact their ideology. Progressive, just the lighter version of that, the less extreme version of that. We dress it up in nice language about improving communities, but now we have these massive highway systems, which in some cases they're convenient, but it came at a great cost. Great cost to the type of people that progressives supposedly defend, black and brown communities. They were the ones who had to pay the cost for that highway system. And now we've built a highway system, in some cases, wasn't successful because they didn't consider the market forces and the justifications for that. And in many cases is now crumbling because the revenue that they anticipated being generated from highway systems in certain cities never materialized. So the state and local governments don't have the money to justify rebuilding these systems. And so now we're looking 50, 60 years later at the federal government to come bail them out. And that's what the infrastructure plan is now. It is doubling down on a bad system. So Pete Buttigieg is right in his criticism. There's literally racism built into the highway systems. That is actually true. It's a good thing. But the way it was done is progressive central planning. Instead of recognizing that and recognizing the rights of property owners and individuals in these communities, the federal government is doubling down on their big central planning ideas. We're just increasing the problem, and we continue to do it. And progressives do that all the time. They do that in highways, do that in gun rights too. And that's kind of my point in the last segment too. Progressives who are enacting gun rights legislations don't understand that when it's enforced on the ground by police officers, that oftentimes the subject of that enforcement, of that increased enforcement against people who would otherwise be legal gun owners, is going to be also those communities that they are going on about how the police is targeting them. If you give the police new gun laws and you have legal, black and brown gun owners, and you think the police are racist, do you think that they will use those laws against those same communities? Of course they are. But the gun laws serve the greater good. They don't care about the individual liberties that are being crushed in that process. And I'm bashing Democrats a bit here, but the Republicans will absolutely do that too. They're doing that on trade policy. They'll do that on all sorts of stuff, including, when they let gun control legislation slide. No, just this one time we'll let that happen for the greater good. No, it is important to make a stand at every step of the way, whether it's your homes being torn down for highways, eminent domain, through your Second Amendment rights, through your rights to freely associate with people, your rights to speech. We need to constantly make that stand and not fall prey to the argument that, well, we can just violate this one right, even though you're not really hurting anybody, you're exercising your negative rights. We can violate this one time for the greater good. Nonsense. Don't give them an inch, because they will keep going. They will keep marching on and crushing you underneath their vision for a progressive society. So, I'll say that on gun control, on every issue. And I feel like I tied that nicely together today, right? Hopefully you got that. But would love to hear your comments. Is racism built into highways? Am I being ridiculous? Am I falling into that progressive language? I don't know. I think that this is the progressives telling on themselves here. They're telling on themselves, and they're admitting that their vision for society harm people. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. I will be back on Wednesday. Larry Sharp will be in tomorrow. Make sure you tune in here to A Free Solution. Talk to you then.